All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. It is that time of the week, folks, my weekly picks in the world of the National Football League. We are in full effect here for the month of December. It's all about separation time for the pretenders from the contenders. And you got some teams that are looking like they can do some real damage come next month in the postseason with an eye on getting to and winning the Super Bowl. Now, last night I picked the Packers to turn things around against the Detroit Lions. That was not the case, as Detroit continues to show why they are one of, if not the best teams in the NFC right now. Nonetheless, we have a good slew of games on tap for Sunday, as well as the Monday night affair. And with that said, here are my picks for week number 14 in this NFL season. Now, under the category of somebody simply got to win, you've got the 2-10 Jacksonville Jaguars traveling to Nashville to take on the 3-9 Titans. Now, for Jacksonville, they know they got to go it the rest of the way without quarterback Trevor Lawrence. Lawrence was not having the best season to begin with, but of course, that hit that he sustained rather last week against the Houston Texans means that Mac Jones, another former first round pick, is going to be under center for Jacksonville. I look at Tennessee, and you look at this team under first year head coach Brian Callahan. Their game, but they simply don't have the talent to get it done consistently. Like I said, this is a game where something's got to give, somebody's got to win. The Titans are favored by 3.5 at home. I'm going to take them by a touchdown over Jacksonville, 24-17. Now in the AFC East, you've got the 5-7 Miami Dolphins hosting the 3-9 New York Jets. Coming into this season, this was supposed to be a big game for both of these teams with an eye on getting to the postseason. After the injuries, Miami is looking to hang around in the playoff picture in the AFC, while for the Jets, this season cannot end quick enough. You look at the Jets, and of course, it starts with the inconsistency that they have gotten from veteran quarterback Aaron Rodgers, and then it's a trickle down to the rest of the same team. Now we're starting to see the injuries pile up. No Sauce Gardner at cornerback for New York in this one. But like I said, after the injury to Tua, things are starting to come full circle again for the Dolphins. They're taking care of things against the teams that they're supposed to beat. Had a step back last week on Thanksgiving night on the road, courtesy of the Green Bay Packers. I think Miami gets back into the win column in this one, and they're able to stay in that playoff picture in the AFC. I'm going to take the Dolphins at home by the score of 27-20. Now, it's the return of quarterback Kirk Cousins to the Twin Cities, as after spending several years as a starting quarterback of the Minnesota Vikings, he is now the starting quarterback for the Atlanta Falcons. But how much longer? Atlanta comes to town nursing a losing streak. They're trying to get back on track. Kirk Cousins did not, and I repeat, did not have a great game last Sunday, as he threw 4 interceptions as Atlanta fell at home to the Los Angeles Chargers. Now, there are some who are beginning to clamor for the rookie at quarterback for Atlanta and one Michael Penix Jr. So let's see how the veteran Kirk Cousins rises to the occasion. Now, Sam Darnold wasn't supposed to be the guy who was going to replace Kirk Cousins in Minnesota. That was J.J. McCarthy, of course, the rookie's out for the year with a knee injury. But nonetheless, the veteran Sam Darnold has been steady Eddie for the most part in his first season with the Vikings. I look at this game and I think it comes down to the Vikings defense, and I think it comes down to the coaching of defensive coordinator Brian Flores and head coach Kevin O'Connell. Kevin O'Connell knows the ins and outs of Kirk Cousins. Brian Flores is a strong defensive coordinator, and I think he's going to make life tough for the veteran quarterback. Kirk Cousins will not play as bad as he did last Sunday. He will play better, but it will not be enough, as I'm going to take the Vikings at home by the score of 30-24. Now at MetLife Stadium in East Rutherford, you've got the 2-10 New York Football Giants hosting the 4-8 New Orleans Saints. And both of these teams, at the end of the day, they're just trying to finish the season on a positive note and see what they can do going into the offseason. The Giants have still yet to win a game at home this season. And for head coach Brian Daboll, he's going once again with quarterback Drew Lock. Drew Lock showed some positives and he showed some negatives in last week's loss on the road to the Dallas Cowboys. But I think the biggest thing for the Giants, they have to run the football and they have to establish things on the line of scrimmage. The injuries are starting to pile up for the Giants. No more Dexter Lawrence at defensive tackle for New York this season. How will that impact their defense? Then on the flip side, for the New Orleans Saints, they lost their mascot, if you will, as quarterback Taysom Hill is done. And of course, he's a backup who primarily comes into the game to run. Nonetheless, Alvin Kamara at running back is starting to look like Alvin Kamara a couple of years ago, and the Giants defense has to keep tabs on him. Will this New York defense be able to turnovers from a veteran quarterback Derek Carr for the Saints? New Orleans coming into this contest favored by 5.5 on the road. The over under is 40.5. I'm going to take the Saints by a touchdown, 24-17. Now, in the city of brotherly love at Lincoln Financial Field, you've got the 10-2 Philadelphia Eagles hosting the 3-9 Carolina Panthers. And there are some people who think that the Eagles have what it takes to win the NFC for the second time in the last 3 years and also ultimately win the Super Bowl. Big reason for that as is the MVP caliber season that we are seeing from running back Saquon Barkley. And this Panthers defense has to be wary of him because if number 26 gets going, the rest of this Eagles offense feeds off of him. Yes, the Carolina Panthers are 3-9. Yes, they are trying to find their way under first-year head coach Dave Canales. But one thing is for sure, the benching of the young quarterback Bryce Young and now coming back to him, we're starting to see Bryce Young look like a first round pick at quarterback as he's getting good tutelage and he's getting good seasoning. That's going to be something big going forward for Carolina. I know that the Panthers are a 13.5 point underdog. I know there are a lot of people out there putting big bucks on the Eagles to beat this team going away. I think the Eagles will win by double figures come Sunday afternoon. I just think Carolina's going to have to will make them work for it a little bit more than people expect. I'm going to take Philadelphia by the score of 31-20. Now, the other team that calls the great state of Pennsylvania home, I'm talking about the Pittsburgh Steelers. They enter this week with a record of 9-3 as they are set to host the 3-9 Cleveland Browns. And it was a couple of weeks ago on Thursday Night Football where Pittsburgh made the trek west to Cleveland, and they returned home on the wrong side of a loss to the Browns. You look at the Browns this season, they beat both the Ravens and the Steelers in this division. So at the end of the day, you better pay attention to them. The Browns offensively look much different with veteran quarterback Jameis Winston at the helm. Of course, Jameis has given them life, but of course, with Jameis, you have to take the good and the bad. He will make a phenomenal throw for a touchdown pass, but then he will turn around and throw a pick six or two. I look at the Steelers. Their offense looked like they were clicking last week in the victory over the Cincinnati Bengals. They've got to get back to playing Steeler-type football defensively coming down the stretch. The Browns have a short week. Of course, they played on Monday Night Football and they lost on the road to Denver. I think that's a carryover, as well as the fact that Mike Tomlin is going to have his team ready to play come Sunday afternoon. I'm going to take Pittsburgh by the score of 30-19. Now it's a battle of the Pirates in Florida as you got the 6-6 Tampa Bay Buccaneers hosting the 2-10 Las Vegas Raiders. And Tampa, for all that it's worth, they're hanging around in that NFC South picture. And of course, the recent slump by the Atlanta Falcons is helping them. You look at the return of veteran wide receiver Mike Evans, and he gives quarterback Baker Mayfield a steady option in the passing game. I know that the Raiders are 2-10, but this team is going to fight for first-year head coach Antonio Pierce. They gave the Kansas City Chiefs all that they could handle last Friday. Should have won the game, but of course, there's no room for woulda, coulda, shoulda in the National Football League. This Bucks cover two definitely has to keep an eye out for rookie tight end Brock Bowers, who really has the potential to be the offensive rookie of the year. But nonetheless, the Bucks come into this game favored by 6.5 at home. I'm going to take them by 8, as I'm going to say Tampa 24, the Raiders 16. Now in the NFC West, the big time battle as you got the 7-5 Seattle Seahawks traveling to the desert to take on the 6-6 Arizona Cardinals. And of course, these two teams met in Seattle a couple of weeks ago, where we saw the Seahawks get the best of the birds. And of course, there's a lot at stake here. First place is on the line in the NFC West. And of course, if you're Seattle, a win right here would really put you in the driver's seat, because now you would have swept the season series from the Cardinals. But I'll tell you like this, I expect Arizona to come out and establish the line of scrimmage with James Conner. You have to keep running with him, and you have to try to put the pressure on the Seattle defense. And speaking of putting pressure, what is this Cardinals front going to be able to do against veteran quarterback Geno Smith for Seattle? That's going to be a big one. Arizona comes into this contest favored by 2.5. I think this is a game, a classic game, where the last team to possess the football wins, and I'm going to take Arizona by the score of 27-24. Now at Inglewood, you've got the 6-6 Los Angeles Rams, who are hanging around in that NFC West picture, and they are hosting the 10-2 Buffalo Bills. And of course, it's a tale of two different weeks for Buffalo, as we saw them have their way with the 49ers last weekend in that winter wonderland that was Orchard Park. Now they're going to be playing in the climate control setting of SoFi Stadium. You look at the Buffalo Bills, and this team just feeds off of their quarterback, Josh Allen, who is once again in that mix to be the MVP. I just look at this Bills team. They're playing loose on both sides of the ball. And at the end of the day, I know they're 10-2, but I'm not afraid to say that Buffalo is playing with house money. And I think that carries over into this game. The Bills are favored by 3.5, but I'm going to take them by 10. And I'm going to say Buffalo 30, the Rams 20. Now, you've got the San Francisco 49ers with a record of 5-7 hosting the 4-8 Chicago Bears. And of course, the Bears are looking for their first road win of the season, and they're also looking for their first win sans Matt Eberflus as their head coach. Of course, Chicago comes into this game nursing a 6-game losing streak. It's been cast of calamity of errors, if you will, rather, over the last 6 weeks, as far as the Bears simply finding ways or going out of their way to lose games, which is a big reason why Matt Eberflus is no longer the coach. The Bears have been close, and I think this is a good opportunity for them to get back in the win column. San Francisco is favored by 3.5 points at home, but the 49ers are dealing with a lot of injuries, and it simply has not come together for San Francisco this season after they got to the Super Bowl last year. Like I said, San Francisco's favored by 3.5 points at home, but I'm going to take the Bears to get their first road win of the season. I'm going to say Chicago 24, San Francisco 23. Then on Sunday Night Football, we've got the 8-4 Los Angeles Chargers traveling to Arrowhead to try to do what no team has been able to do so far this season, which is beat the Chiefs at home. We've seen the Bengals come close. We saw the Broncos come close. We saw the Raiders come close, but they couldn't get it done. Now, for the Chargers, they faced the Chiefs earlier this season. They were physical with them, but the Chiefs were also physical with them as well. You've got two veteran head coaches of the game, Jim Harbaugh, of course, for the Lightning Bolts, and of course, Andy Reid for Kansas City. I look at this Chargers offense, and what are they going to do when they get the football against this Kansas City defense? Because the thing is, Kansas City defensively makes you do something that you don't want to do, which is have to consistently settle for field goals. You cannot beat the Chiefs if you're going to go out there and just kick field goals. I'll tell you like this, though. I expect the Chargers to be physical with the Kansas City Chiefs on both sides of the football. I expect the Chiefs to answer the call and be physical with the Chargers as well. I think this is going to be a very physical game. It's going to be back and forth. Kansas City is favored by 4, but I'm going to take the Chargers in this one by the score of 24-22. And finally, on Monday Night Football, we've got the 4-8 Cincinnati Bengals traveling to take on the 5-7 Dallas Cowboys. And Dallas, they're starting to get some guys back. On top of that, they're starting to win some games. We saw them beat Washington on the road a couple of weeks ago, and then we saw them beat the Giants at home on Thanksgiving Day. And Dallas is starting to get a rhythm again, if you will, with Cooper Rush at quarterback. You've got Micah Parsons back. You've got Demario Overshawn as well. For the Cincinnati Bengals, they're much more talented than their 4-8 record. But at the end of the day, like Bill Parcells says, you are what you are. Cincinnati comes into this game favored by 5 points, and for good reason, because Dallas's pass defense has not been there all season long, which means you would expect quarterback Joe Burrow and wide receiver Jamar Chase to have another big game. But the Cincinnati pass defense has not been great as well, which means if quarterback Cooper Rush for Dallas can get the football to wide receiver CD Lamb, he can have him a big day as well. Will this Bengals offensive line be able to keep Joe Burrow upright long enough for him to get the football to Jamar Chase? We've got to wait and see. Cincinnati comes into this contest favored by 5, but I'm going to take Dallas. They're home for the second consecutive game. They've had that additional rest coming off of playing on Thanksgiving last Thursday. I'm going to take the Cowboys in this one by the score of 27-24. So, folks, those are my picks for this week in the world of the National Football League. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank each and every one of you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. I want to take this time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you have not already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Now, if you're on the X, formerly known as Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it will be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. Now you can check it out. Drop a line and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. So once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin, and I am signing off. And I'm saying take care and have yourselves a wonderful day.